Susan with Susan's Country Living. Thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to be in the kitchen fixing a mess. Have you ever had this happen to your jelly? When it doesn't set? Well, it happened to me. I did a double batch of the Mustang grape. It's a wild grape that grows here in Texas. And I followed the recipe. I used pectin, which, I've had really good success with that. But for some reason, it did not gel. Yeah, so all that work and yeah, it's kind of discouraging. But, things happen. And so we're going to fix it. With my blackberry and my dewberry jelly, the pectin I use is this liquid pectin. It's the only thing that I have found other than cooking it up to a certain temperature with no pectin in it, just using the pectin that's in the fruit. This is the only thing I could get the blackberry and the dewberry jelly to gel. So I'm going to use this with the grape because it's a juice, it's acidic, and we're going to try this out. And so on the instruction sheet that comes in the box, there's 2 pouches in this box. So there's 2 batches of jelly there. And it says what to do if your cooked jelly or jam doesn't set. And that's what happened to mine. It did not set. And I left it there, and I even put one in the fridge. They said to try that, and it did not set. So it talks about on here using just a cup of your jelly and adding, it says use 1 cup of the jelly that didn't set and add 1.5 teaspoons of that gel pectin, 1.5 teaspoons of lemon juice, and 3 tablespoons of sugar for that 1 cup. So yesterday I did that. And it gelled. I'm so happy. And I had some this morning on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and it's delicious. It has a tart taste to it, and it's kind of a semi-soft spread, but yeah, see, it's not coming out. So it worked. It said give it 24 hours, and if it works, then do your jelly again. So it said to do not do more than 8 cups of jelly. So I took 8 of these. These are 1 cup, and put them in a pot right here. I'm going to stick this back in the fridge. So I did the math for 8 cups. You could do a 4 cup if you wanted to, but my pot is big enough to handle the 8 cups of juice. So what I'm going to do is, when I did the math, I'm going to put 2 ounces of lemon juice and 2 ounces of that gel pectin and 1 1/2 cup sugar. And when I added the sugar, it really didn't change. That 3 tablespoons added to that 1 cup, it really did not change the sweetness of it, because I had tasted it before when I made the jelly. So I just follow the instructions right here. What to do if it doesn't set. There's also instructions on the internet to use the pectin, and you make a liquid pectin with the pectin with some of the juice, and you go through that process. But I had this, and I know it works, so I need to make a note in my recipe to use the liquid pectin instead of use my pectin, because it's just not working for me with that. It works great for other jellies, strawberries, blueberries, those things that are not as acidic. So I'm thinking that may have something to do with it. So what I'm going to do is I've got some jars going there in my steam canner, getting hot. I've got my lids in hot water. I've got my 8 cups, and it says to bring these 8 cups of jelly, unset jelly, to a boil to where you can't stir it down. And once we get to that point, then we'll be adding our sugar, our lemon juice, and our pectin, bringing it back to a boil, let it go for 30 seconds, and then jar it up and process it again. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that. I kind of turn mine on a medium high heat. I like to use a spatula because it's got a flat bottom and it scrapes the bottom of the pan really good. I've also seen, I was on Layman's looking at some canning lids, and they actually have spoons that have flat edges on them. So, but I just use this, and we're going to bring it up to a boil. It's starting to boil. I turned it up onto high heat, and I've been stirring it constantly, and it's starting to boil. And see how I'm stirring it, but it is still boiling. Okay, that's where we want it. Add the sugar, stir that in, the lemon juice, stir that in and get that sugar mixed in, and then the pectin. Stir and bring this back to a boil like it was before, and then let it go 30 seconds. Okay, see how it's starting to simmer, but when I stir, that simmer goes away. We're not ready yet. But it's almost there. Okay, see how it's foaming up? That kind of lets me know that it's getting there. And I'm going to go ahead and time it for 30 seconds. And it will rise up in the pot as it boils. Just keep stirring. Alright, so that was 30 seconds. I'm going to turn my heat off. I'm going to take it off the heat. Back here. While I get my jars. There is that foam on top. I'm going to see if it kind of dissipates. I may need to do a little bit of skimming. Some of that, a little bit of that foam off. See, when I did this the other day, I didn't get any foam, so could have been not enough pectin. I followed the recipe exactly, but this is not a lot of foam. There's some that blueberries, strawberries foam up quite a bit. All right, I think that's good enough. And we're going to put this back over here. Heat and get our jars. Go ahead and get this jarred up. I bring it up to a 1/4 inch head space. Got my lids and the hot water. Got my rings. Okay, so that gave me 9 jars because I'd added sugar, added some more ingredients. So ended up with 9 jars instead of 8. I'm going to grab a paper towel. We're going to put some water. We're going to, you always want to wipe the rim of the jar. And you want to go finger tight. Normally if I was doing pickles or something, I would not open up my canner. I would want to keep it hot. Because with pickles, I want them to process as fast as possible, or something that would get soft, where with jelly, it's okay. Now, you can deactivate pectin by boiling it in the pot too long. So that's why you need to follow the instructions on the length of time it says to process or to boil in the pot. This is very, very hot, so you always want to be careful. You don't want your kids or animals at your feet, because if this spills, it can burn, like a severe burn. Now it's funny how wild fruits like your dewberries and your Mustang grapes and mayhaw, muscadine, a lot of those things, elderberry that you find that you can forage for, are so delicious and have such a different flavor than your cultivated varieties. I will sell out really fast at the farmer's market on things like that because they're hard to get. I'm glad to see on YouTube, watching a lot of homesteaders and the younger generation that are just now having their children, are starting to, go back to these ways of preserving food, not depending so much on the grocery store, but growing their own food. And, my generation, unless you wanted to learn from your grandparents or your parents, a lot of people just didn't. Okay, so we have the 9 jars in the canner, and waiting for the temperature to come up. We will process for 10 minutes, and the part that I skimmed off, I can tell if it's going to gel pretty much by that. And yeah, it's going to set up, so I'm so glad about that. And I got an extra jar. That is so good. It's got a little tartness to it. So we'll check on these in a few minutes after they have finished processing. Okay, so our time is up, and cut the heat off, opened up the canner, let them sit there about 5 minutes, and remove them. There they are. 9 jars. So if your jam or jelly doesn't set, don't fret. Go get you some of this and follow those instructions for what happens if your jam or jelly doesn't set. So I hope this was an informational video. I know some of you you're maybe new to making jellies and jams or canning, or like me, sometimes you have a flop, but you just fix it. Hope y'all have a great gardening and preserving season. Bye, y'all.